Welcome back to today's Photo Minute. My name is Brian Osborne from the Photo Classroom, and today I wanted to cover a subject about a specific camera control and seeing if your camera has that option and how you might set that up to work more effectively. That specific control that we're talking about is the ability to lock the aperture or the shutter speed value, or both of those, in a way that you can't inadvertently adjust those numbers once you have those set in place. And this is a nice option. It's not available on all cameras. Usually it's on medium to higher level Canons and Nikons that we find this feature on. But all of us have probably had the experience of being in manual mode or being in aperture priority mode, and all of a sudden having fixed our aperture or shutter speed value where we want it to be, but then we accidentally spin one of the command wheels and we're actually changing that value, and we may not even notice it at the time. This came up based off a couple of the students have been asking about it lately, and it really came up in the manual mode class, our M mode class, which was offered a couple weeks ago. And if you missed that class, it's a great class to take, and you can actually purchase a recording of it on our website. But in that class, we were talking about how often we use manual mode in situations where we want to lock down the aperture and lock down the shutter speed so that there's no change in the exposure from the beginning of the shoot to the end of the shoot. And in that context, what often happens is that while we have those values set where we want them to be, we can accidentally hit one of the command dials, one of the buttons and wheels on the camera. And by doing so, we've actually changed those values, and that can really make getting consistent results very, very difficult. And so what I wanted to do today was show you on my specific camera, which is a Nikon D500. It's really one of the first Nikons. The 500 series, the 800 series all has this feature, as well as many Canons as well. But you'll need to look this up in your instruction manual to see if this is possible. But not only can your camera allow you to lock the aperture and shutter speed values if you choose to, but also is there a shortcut way to be able to do that without having to go into the menu system of the camera each and every time that your goal is to lock those values so that you can't inadvertently change them. And so I wanted to show you on my camera what that looks like, and give me just a second to pull that up on our screen here. And so I'm on the Nikon D500. I'm under the custom setting menu, which is the pencil menu on my specific camera. And I'm going to go into controls, and you'll see that F3, one of the third option down on the list, is at least the menu option where I can actually lock my aperture and or lock my shutter speed. Now this is great. It's great that my camera has this ability, but it would require me to go underneath the menu each and every time in order to lock an aperture or shutter speed, or both of those. And so what's even better than that is there a quick access way that I can set up on my camera that I don't need to go underneath the menu in order to lock a value for a certain period of time, and then easily unlock that value as well without having to go into the menu to maybe readjust it and make a different setting on my camera system. So this is where I'd actually lock the value of the aperture shutter speed if I was willing to go into the menu in each and every time. But on this camera, I can actually program some buttons and wheels to do that without having to go underneath the menu. And I'm going to show you where that is as well. If I go back out of this and I go back up to F1, that's custom control assignment. And this is where on my camera, and it's very similar on the Canons, where you can basically program each and every button and wheel and how they do different things for you on the camera. But I'm going to go under here, and you'll see that I've got lots of buttons and programmable buttons on this camera. However, many of these I already have set to do certain types of things that I've already programmed them to do. But if I go to the second page, I have an empty space, and that is under Movie Record. That would be using the button that is the record start and stop if I was in video mode, but using it for a different function, a quick access function, if I'm in still camera mode. And so that's what I'm going to program. So I'm going to go under this right here. And you'll see that while there's multiple things I can change by using the movie record button and spinning the back control wheel, the one that I want to program it for is shutter speed and or aperture lock. So I'm going to hit that button there. Now I've programmed that movie record button to have that function. I'm going to hit menu 2 times to get back out of this, and then I'm going to pull up my screen so that you can actually see how this would be working if you were right here with me with the camera in hand. So let's say I'm out shooting. Let's say I'm in manual mode, although this works in shutter priority mode and aperture priority mode as well. But let's say I'm in manual mode, and I want to keep the 2/50th of a second shutter speed that I've already set, and I also want to keep the 6.3 aperture that I've already set. What I'm going to do is hold down the movie record button. I'm going to spin the wheel one click. You see the L pop up next to the shutter speed. If I want to lock the aperture as well, I hold down the same button, the movie record button, spin the front control wheel, one click, and now I've locked both of those. If I want to change any of them at any time, I simply hold down the movie record button, spin it one click, and I can unlock either or both of those values right there. And then I can change the value, and then I could go back to relocking it. So with a little bit of practice, it'd be a very easy way for me to go and lock the values of my camera and be able to make sure that they aren't inadvertently changed. Once again, this is something that you need to research on your own camera and your instruction manual to see if it's possible. If not, it's just, you just want to make sure that when you have set your values correctly, that you don't accidentally change those. However, if your camera does have this feature, it might be that you can go under the menu like I showed you at first, and you can actually adjust that feature and actually turn those the aperture and shutter speed locks on and off. And even better than that, you might be able to actually set up a quick access system so that you can easily lock the aperture and or the shutter speed value without having to go underneath the menu of the camera each time to do so. I hope this has been helpful. Once again, thank you for joining me for today's Photo Minute. My name is Brian Osborne of the Photo Classroom.